But there were definitely 2 adults in the main meadow and 1 adult up there.
And
High up in the alpine meadows of Vancouver Island's Mount Arrowsmith lives one of the world's rarest mammals, the Vancouver Island marmot.
We only find Vancouver Island marmots on Vancouver Island. They're really hardy, they live in really harsh conditions. As you can see around you, it's pretty rugged. Around here, they've got some pretty fearsome predators, like cougars and eagles. They're only above ground for 5 months of the year. And in that time, they've got to breed, rear their young, and then put on enough body condition so that they can last the next winter, and then do it all over again. So they're quite amazing animals. But these little critters are under quite a lot of threat from a number of different angles. Landscape level changes are probably the biggest factor. There's a lot of human encroachment on these wild spaces, and that can bring predators. It gives them easier access. You can get one cougar that can go into a colony and just wipe them out.
In 2003, there were fewer than 30 of these marmots left in the wild. Since then, they have been bred in captivity and released yearly onto island mountains.
There's been hundreds of marmots bred in captivity and released onto the landscape. And from a low of less than 30 marmots in 2003, currently we've got a population of 150 to 200 marmots. Make sure you can always see your trap and don't leave it unattended.
Scientists with the Marmot Recovery Foundation are visiting Mount Arrowsmith for a happy reason. The Mount Arrowsmith marmot colony has been growing faster than anywhere else.
On the hour, every hour. Hikers were seeing marmots on the summit, so we decided to investigate a bit further, and we did a big survey, and we found 30, maybe 35 marmots. So a disproportionately large amount. We're surrounded on 3 sides by cliffs, so I think this place seldom sees predators, and that's why the marmots are doing so well here.
So we're out here trying to trap marmots with the intention of implanting them with radio transmitters. We want to be able to track the marmots and follow them over a course of years to make sure that this colony doesn't show any declines. We can come out and watch for marmots, but it's much easier to get an idea once they have that radio transmitter, so we can follow them around in this rather daunting landscape.
Catching marmots is a delicate task, requiring stealth, cunning, and peanut butter.
The way we trap marmots, we bait them with peanut butter, which seems to be the favourite food of a Vancouver Island marmot. So once we set the trap, we move away from the trap and get a hiding spot, and we observe the trap with binoculars from a distance where the marmot will feel safe. And we can often be watching for days. When we transport them for their surgeries, we make sure that they have the least amount of stress as possible. This animal is a super hardy, super tough animal, and once we release it back to the burrow that we trapped it at, we often see them out within half an hour to an hour foraging, and it's as if nothing happened. So they're a lot tougher than we are.
Because they are so close to extinction, the marmot's biggest threat is predation by cougars. But like the people who live below the mountain, the marmots also rely on the snowpack that's being threatened by a warming climate.
In the last few years, we've seen very low snowpack. Then that means that the river levels are low, and that has an effect on salmon. But it also has an effect on the marmots, because these lush meadows that you're seeing right now, by August, are going to brown up that much quicker. And the quality of that forage is that much lower. So the marmots aren't able to put on enough body condition, and then potentially you could have some issues with them surviving through hibernation.
Working on the steep mountain terrain may be difficult, but for everyone here, the rewards are far greater than the cost.
It can be challenging conditions. You know, we go out in all weathers, and the bugs are pretty bad sometimes. But at the end of the day, we're saving a species, and it'll be something we can tell our grandkids.
What happens to these meadows if there are no longer any Vancouver Island marmots? That's probably something that we don't completely understand, and it's kind of an experiment we really don't want to have.
Be inspired by the people working in Canada's biosphere reserves to create a sustainable future on Striking Balance, Season 2.